Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. First of all, on behalf of the Hong Kong Trade Development Council, welcome to the Hong Kong Forum. It is indeed a great pleasure to be among friends of Hong Kong and of the Hong Kong TDC. And since last year, our federation has further grown to almost 13,000 members from 40 associations covering 29 countries and economies, and including two newly formed associations from Indonesia and Philippines. And this is my first Hong Kong Forum as the chairman of the Hong Kong TDC. But I also had the pleasure to join your forum in 2009 as a speaker. So much has happened between then and now. Back in 2009, the big issue of the day was whether the world was pulling itself out of the financial crisis and free trade agreements were simpler bilateral or multilateral arrangements. Today, the world is still focused on the global economy, but climate change, geopolitical unrest, and demographic imbalance add complexity to an already tough environment. New trade configurations like the TPP are also affecting existing trade relationships, and traditional businesses are challenged by new technology and innovations. The world is indeed changing very fast. And here in Hong Kong, we have also been changing with the times as a society. We have come through the occupied Central with a stronger desire to move ahead. But weakening global demand and the slower pace of growth in China and Asia have affected our trade exports and GDP. Shanghai and Singapore are also increasingly competitive as global cities, directly challenging Hong Kong's position as Asia's hub. However, I'm an optimist by nature, so I see these challenges as opportunities for change and impetus for growth. Now let's look at China and Asia. China expected to grow by only 6.8% and Asia by 5.4% next year. But these growth rates are head and shoulders above the 3 to 4% forecast for many developed economies. Clearly, China and Asia remain the key drivers of the world economic engine. And to put this into perspective, the 7% growth of China every 3 years will be building a new UK economy. So it is by no means, 6.8% around here or inside China. It feels like more like a recession. I guess they've been spoiled by the double-digit growth in the past 30 years. And if prospects for China and Asia are strong, then Hong Kong stands to gain by being the international gateway of China and the heart of Asia. I'm glad to say that the strong results of our autumn sales trade fairs reaffirm this. And as some of the largest fair in the world, our trade shows welcome over 200,000 buyers from 175 countries and regions in the past 2 months, and over 9,000 local and international exhibitors, which was a 4% growth from last year. The international business community also gives us a vote of confidence. If we look at the number of overseas companies setting up in Hong Kong, we have seen an increase from 8,000 in 2009 to nearly 10,000 this year. So what's next, especially for our next generation? Where are the opportunities and what role will Hong Kong play? These and many other issues are what we will explore with you over the next 2 days. I believe phenomenal opportunities lie in a very major development. This is the Belt and Road Initiative, which you might have heard of frequently these days. This is also called the One Belt, One Road. This is a development concept inspired by the ancient Silk Road and conceived by China's President Xi Jinping. The modern-day version consists of a land route linking Asia with Europe through Central Asia and a maritime route linking coastal China with Southeast Asia, South Asia, the Middle East to Europe and beyond. It aims to foster policy, economic, and cultural cooperation across 65 countries and covers 60% of the world's population and 30% of the world's GDP. And in concrete terms, the Belt and Road Initiative will be led by projects that will give physical connectivity. Cross-border investment will be needed for infrastructural projects like roads and railways, ports and power plants, telecom systems and cables. Indeed, the value of infrastructure investment alone is estimated to be $250 billion US. Once connectivity is established, new markets will bring opportunities in manufacturing, trading, and services. Increased business activity will spur employment opportunities and social changes. Throughout the process, business prospects will open up for developed countries, while the Belt and Road nations can reap the benefits of development through investment, know-how, and exchange. Especially when the nations leapfrog to new technologies, unprecedented opportunities will be available to young people, women, and entrepreneurs with tech-enabled businesses such as e-commerce, services, or creative industries. If this sounds like an ambitious plan, it is. But if successful, or I should say when successful, the Belt and Road Initiative could be a brilliant game changer that shapes the global economic order for decades to come. Already, there has been strong global support for financial institutions such as the AIB, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, the New Development Bank, or the BRICS Bank, and other institutions. As a key driving force, China is also a major contributor, setting up the $40 billion US Silk Road Fund as a start. So what is Hong Kong's role in all this? Hong Kong is going to be the information hub and integrator for companies to access opportunities from the Belt and Road Initiative. The reasons are simple. Not only is Hong Kong the international gateway for China, but it is also a world city with excellent global connections and a deep knowledge of international business and practices. Hong Kong is already a global financial hub and China's largest offshore renminbi center, with a well-regulated and transparent platform of international standard. Our professionals, such as accountants, lawyers, arbitrators, architects, designers, and consultants, all provide crucial talent to kickstart the Belt and Road Initiative process. And with years of experience in trading and logistics, we are well placed to continue to support the expected fury of trade activities. And most importantly, this huge initiative needs a global city like Hong Kong with a global network such as you or our Federation members to facilitate between China and the many different cultures and economies in the Belt and Road footprint. Of course, with a plan of this scale, one city cannot do it alone. Different hubs across the world with similar attributes can link up to do business together and invite you to be our ambassadors in driving the message home. The Belt and Road is an inclusive plan with opportunities for all. Whether your country is along the route or not, there is a place for businesses to participate, and Hong Kong is the place to help you to make it happen. Here at the Hong Kong TDC, developing effective platforms for companies to capitalize on the Belt and Road Initiative will be our priority. First, we will establish Hong Kong as an information hub to help business people like you to make informed decisions. Indeed, we will launch a website in a few days' time, offering official information, news, research analysis, and lists of service providers and organizations which can help. And secondly, we will also step up on our networking activities, missions and outreach events around the world, especially in markets along the Belt and Road. to help create business opportunities. A key event will be a high-level summit next May here in Hong Kong. At this event, senior government officials, top business leaders from Asia and around the world will share their insights on how you can capitalize on this initiative. We look forward to welcoming you on May the 18th next year. Meanwhile, we will also encourage participation by Belt and Road countries in our trade shows and conferences for industries as diverse as electronics, lighting and wine, to intellectual property, technology and design, logistics and maritime service. In effect, the opportunity that this initiative will bring are truly infinite. And this afternoon, we will have a session on the Belt and Road, featuring leading economists who will explore different opportunities and how you can maximize them. And that is why I'm optimistic about the future. But we need to see the world in new perspectives, and we need to embrace change. That is why our forum this year will welcome a panel of young leaders who are blazing a new path for the future with innovative thinking. We will also organize a young entrepreneur program for 18 young Federation members from 10 countries later this week. We will also address the issue of bringing in more women leaders to the workplace, and I'm especially glad to be speaking with Esther later on, who is a shining example of this. And in closing, I'd like to thank our guest speakers and panelists for spending time with us. I hope that you will be inspired by new ideas and excited by the new plans, and will advocate Hong Kong to your contacts when you return home. Thank you for being Hong Kong's ambassadors, and you can always count on us for our support. I wish you a rewarding and enjoying time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Low. Please remain on stage. Here comes the question and answer section. May we invite Ms. Nageli to moderate the section for us, please.
Thank you very much for this very interesting speech and introduction to our today's forum. I would like to ask you a few questions which go a bit more into the depth of the topics, if you may allow. My first question would be, the global economic recovery is taking longer than experts had expected, actually. And so how do you see the next year for Hong Kong and the global economy?
Actually, the situation environment is not too promising. I was mentioning about geopolitical unrest. We're talking about slower growth. We're talking about refugees. We're talking about terrorist attacks. These are not very encouraging. So I think next year will be a difficult year because there's so much uncertainty around the world. And I'm particularly concerned about the Europe situation. And I think that is going to be a drag on the global growth. And particularly now with China slowing down to around 7% growth, when we are so used to having a double-digit growth. So Hong Kong, I think, will be having a tough time, especially when Hong Kong, the community is becoming very divided and very politicized, and that is not really helping Hong Kong.
Mm-hmm. So we see two issues you mentioned. You mentioned Europe, which is having problems with what we all know, the refugees coming into Europe, with terrorism being obvious in Europe, and China slowing down. So what would you expect the years ahead? Just difficult, or do you see chances there?
I think the situation will be difficult, but there is at least some positive development, like the Belt and Road that I mentioned. I really believe that is a very phenomenal opportunity for everybody. The Belt and Road, of course, it's been promoted by China, but it cannot be just a China project. It has to be a world project, because we're talking about over 4 billion people, right? 30% of the growth of the world's GDP. But there is a gap there because it's over 60% of the world's population, but only 30% of the world's GDP, which means that there's a lot of opportunity for growth. And so I think this project, it's very ambitious, but we in Hong Kong, particularly the TDC, we aim to play a very constructive role in this whole thing. Just now I mentioned about a website that we are establishing in a few days. And apart from just establishing a website, we want to be the platform to integrate all the resources from around the world to pursue the Belt and Road Initiative. And I think that will create a lot of opportunities for everybody. And we believe Hong Kong is the best place to do this, because I'm sure we all know there's still a bit of suspicion, not clear as to what China is doing, why they're doing this, but Hong Kong, we are very transparent. We are a very commercial city, and this Belt and Road Initiative's got to be based on economics. It cannot be just based on politics. Yeah. Otherwise, there's no way it can be successful. And the numbers that we're talking about, it's phenomenal. There's one estimate that in Asia alone, the infrastructure costs will be over 800 billion per year. So how is this going to be funded? It's got to be from the whole world. Yeah.
So thinking about or speaking about the Silk Road, we have this old picture of, caravans traveling through the desert and things like that. But I understand this project is much more global, and if you look at our audience, we have people from all over the world. It's not just countries along the Silk Road, be it the maritime or the Silk Road on the ground. So how could countries which are not directly involved, could they also participate? What opportunities are there for these countries?
Actually, Esther, I have not seen an official map of the Belt and Road. It's mentioned that it's 65 countries, but there's not an official list of that 65 countries. I believe it's just a plan that's been almost dreamt up by the Chinese leaders. And it depends on how the countries, the nations along the Belt and Road will respond, whether they want to be part of it. And even in America or Europe, everybody can get involved. UK is taking a very positive attitude. UK definitely has not been on the Belt and Road for sure, but if it wants to be involved, it can. And I believe that will be the situation, and that's why I believe Hong Kong can play a very constructive role. I was, you mentioned I was on a delegation with the TDC to the US in June this year, and I was asked this question. US is not involved into the AIIB, so can they participate in the Belt and Road? I said, why not come to Hong Kong? The TDC will bring you.
So you see the opportunities also in the ASEAN then?
Yes, definitely. I think actually the ASEAN countries, I think, are probably going to be the first countries that will benefit from this Belt and Road. It's not going to be so easy with 65 countries. Where do you start? So obviously it's got to start with the countries that has more infrastructure, the countries that has more ready to receive international investment and cooperation. And I believe the ASEAN countries will take a very positive attitude.
If we try to be a bit maybe critical, you mentioned the political issue has been involved in this One Belt, One Road initiative. We have seen moves forward in the TPP over the last month in October. Would you say this is China's answer to the US to the TPT, or?
Well, they're not mutually exclusive, because the TPP, it's 21 nations, and it's still in the process of to be confirmed. It's been agreed, but the thing is, every country's got to go back to their own Congress or legislature to get it approved, which is going to be a long process. I was actually a representative from Hong Kong on the ABAC, which was responsible for pushing the PPP. We've been talking about this for years. Now, of course, it's signed, but it's still got a long way to go yet. But where is the Belt and Road? At least I think China is taking the lead. But now with the establishment of the AIIB with 57 nations, it shows that the world is wanting to support this concept, which I believe is very positive. That's why just now I said it will be successful. I'm not saying if it will be successful. I believe it will be successful.
The One Road, One Belt initiative is a part of China's national 13th five-year plan, which was drafted and will be finalized or adopted very soon in 2016. What is your view on the new five-year plan?
The new five-year plan obviously is very ambitious. China, the goal is to double the GDP per capita from 2010 to 2020, and they will have to grow at least 6.53% in the next 5 years in order to achieve that. And I believe they will achieve that. And this new five-year plan, the 5 key terms will be innovation, balanced growth, green growth, further opening up, and sharing of the benefits. And I believe that's very visionary, very demanding, but at least I think the Chinese leadership is very serious about achieving this. And this will be the first five-year plan under the leadership of Xi Jinping.
So we will see lots of activities now with the new five-year plan, a lot of initiatives too, and a real big start for the One Belt, One Road initiative, I presume. Well, you just, with your investments, you expanded in mainland China. We heard about Xintiandi. Concerning Hong Kong, there's always the question about Singapore, Shanghai being competitors to Hong Kong. What is your view on that?
Competition is good. It really gives you the impetus to have to change and develop and make things happen. Of course, Shanghai, Singapore are major competitors to Hong Kong. But just now I was talking about the One Belt, One Road initiative. I believe Hong Kong can play a much better role than Singapore or Shanghai on this. So it's a new opportunity. It's whether we in Hong Kong will be able to grasp that opportunity that's coming our way. And I believe we can. And I'm really happy that I'm now in the chairmanship of the TDC, and I'm working with Margaret and our management team to work on this together, and we're getting very excited. We're burning a lot of midnight oil for sure.
Time is up.
Good, I hear time is up. So.
No. Well, you set out all the plans of the TDC for this new Belt and Road initiative. I think we heard very much about that. Just a personal remark, maybe to wrap this up and conclude. You heard time is up, isn't it? What I really admire about what you've done as an entrepreneur and building construction, so to say, you can always move further. You can think about people's expectation, how do they want to live in future, and build their imaginations, and something really stays there. Being a lawyer, we always just write contracts, and no one really likes contracts, and it's just an artificial thing, nothing we can look at. So I really admire your entrepreneurship to build up something in mainland China, and also now along with this new One Belt, One Road initiative. I believe we're very happy to have you here and to see how this is moving on with the Hong Kong Trade Development Council and with the initiative for Hong Kong too. So thank you very, very much for being here today.
Thank you, Esther. Thank you.